Hey everybody, it's Gilly Monster, and I'm back, and I'm doing another Gundam overview video. What can I say? I like sanding, priming, painting, and giving all the fine details to these models. Partially because they're relatively cheap, so if I mess it up, it's not going to be too big of a loss of resources. But they just leave a lot of freedom because they tend to be kind of a right level of complexity. So I figured with today's project, well actually this whole last week's project, I would continue in my quest to get all of the purpose-built amphibious mobile suits. So not the heavily modified ones like the Zaku Mariner or the Z Zulu. And I figured I'd do the Gogg, the MSM-03 Gogg, which is pretty much the test bed for all the amphibious technology that Xeon likes to use. So partially just kind of give background on my thoughts. This thing to me looks like a hard suit, like a diving suit from like the 60s. So that's why I gave it kind of more of a utilitarian paint scheme instead of like an aquatic camouflage color scheme. Is because I figured, it just kind of looks like that, and it looks good in black and green. Not only that, but I did a little bit of research into the Gundam Wiki, and it's not really that effective of a combatant. It was more of like a technology testbed type deal. It's got pretty heavy armament as far as mega particle cannons go, but because of one critical oversight I feel like would be a killer in wartime is the fact that this thing was never really built with a cooling system for the reactor. It relied on using ocean water or lake water, wherever it happens to be, basically using water as a cooling system, as a natural heat sink. So, while it's got this heavy armament, while it's on land, it can only depend on what it's carrying in its ballast tanks. As soon as that runs out, it's pretty much got to go back in the water and refill. And then, of course, while it's in the water, it can't use its mega particle cannons. So it feels like it's not really that great of a combatant in either environment. So I figured once this thing kind of outlived its combat usefulness, Xeon would probably, or whoever happens to have the suit, would relegate it to kind of a utilitarian type role, like deep sea salvage and things like that. So that's why I gave it this particular color scheme and the hazard stripes on the backpack. But I also did some other stuff in addition to kind of like the normal kind of grease and grimy look that I think all mobile suits should have, at least kind of like the grunt type ones. I gave it kind of like some silver chip marks that are overlaid with a little bit of rust dabbed on there, rust strips, and just kind of general wear and tear. I found a sticker patch from my high Gogg model, which is where these kind of came from, and a couple of, I would say, minor modifications, but one major functional change. And the minor modification was this kind of bar right here on the chest. Trying to get the camera focused a little bit. That's just made from a piece of runner, and then I drilled a couple holes in the chest and mounted that, just to kind of break up that solid green chest piece. And then you can probably already see it. The eye is actually a gemstone, one of the ones that you can get from Walmart. You get like 100 of them for like $1.50 or something like that. Something ridiculously cheap. But basically what I did is I heard one of the major complaints about this kit, even though it's an older one, is that the eye is a sticker, and it's a pretty big, obnoxious looking one. I mean, you can kind of see it there in the background on the model, or on the manual. Sorry about that. So what I did is I took my Dremel tool and the kind of inner plastic piece right there, I kind of dremeled it out to make a slot, and then I took another section of runner. Sorry, the camera keeps going out of focus. And basically took that runner, heated it up with my heat gun and a drill, and basically pressed it in so that way it would kind of expand out and wouldn't be small enough to fit through that gap in there. And then I took that rhinestone and super glued it down, and so now this thing actually has a functioning eyepiece. You can kind of see it there a little bit. So just to give it a little bit more expression, I guess. And overall, I'm actually pretty happy with the way this one turned out. The only thing I don't really like about it is that the grime, you can see the brush strokes. Oops. Whatever. It's not perfect, but anyway. And of course, I love hazard stripes. I don't know why. They just seem to add so much more to these kits. Sorry about my camera freaking out on me over here. I don't know why it's doing that. It's probably just because of the surface I'm filming this on. But oh, and then I also went down in here and gave these kind of separate these kind of segmented parts above the foot. Their kind of own gray color scheme to kind of match the backs of the knees in here. And then for the turbines, sorry, it's dust and stuff but for the turbines, I kind of gave them a silver, a metallic silver color scheme. So up next are some still photographs and detail shots, and hope you all enjoy. Feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever it is you want to do. If you think there's something I can do differently, like to regards to either the models or the videos, I know the videos aren't the best, and I'm not the best modeler out there, but I'll take whatever constructive criticism I can get. So thank you all, and I'll see you all in the next video.